Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. Really quickly before we begin, I wanted to let you know that over the next month or so I'm going to be on a sort of hiatus. Content-wise, this actually doesn't change a lot. Currently, I'm in the process of creating all the content that's going to cover my time away. I've already recorded a bunch of videos and also even a few T-Slapes, so you guys are going to get that content fed to you over the next month or so. I just won't be there to cover anything that comes up that is contemporary. As a result, no content on the Festival of the Lost and all the lore stuff there, but I mean, hey, you guys should be able to go ahead and read those entries as you unlock them for yourselves, which I think is something that could be a little bit of extra fun here and there. Who knows? There's always quirky stuff in the Festival of the Lost entries as is. Point being, yeah, I'm going to take a long break. It's going to be great, but you guys are still getting content, just to keep you clued in on all the plans. Today, however, we're not talking about that. We're talking about King's Fall raid lore. We're going to have a bunch of stuff going on as is, and yeah, there are things we still need to do. So, let's jump into that. To start with, Golgoroth is one of the encounters in the King's Fall raid, and he's a really big ogre. He sits in the middle of the raid in a location known as Golgoroth's Cellar. This is a repository for light that the Hive have stolen from their enemies and defeated foes, and they store it here in the Dreadnaught's heart for it to sort of be changed and corrupted and ultimately consumed. This is not necessarily the light of Guardians, but rather more it's the light of Oryx's dozens of previous conquests. To name but a few places the light may have come from, take a look at, say, Reese and the other worlds of the Elixni within their previous Starfaring Empire, or perhaps the Giftmast and the Anaharmony, or any other civilization that might have had sufficient contact with the Traveler. It's not to say that these former conquests wielded the light either, but what's revealed in the battle with Golgoroth is that we certainly can wield this light, in an albeit unconventional manner. Within Golgoroth's cellar, we would steal the light that had been stored by the Taken King and use it to bolster our offensive against the beast. The light was corrupted somehow, and the interactions that we would have with it would create occasional volatile detonations whenever it became unstable. Such detonations could be used against Golgoroth if a Guardian was tactful enough. But all this stuff is relatively well known. This is what we understand. What we don't understand is the origins of this massive ogre. The answer to all of those questions might be found in the old grimoire from Destiny 1 surrounding Golgoroth. The answer also hints at a terrifying potential origin of this mutated beast. Take a listen. Speak to the heart with burrowing things. The burrowing things will strengthen the heart. You, Absol, will teach the new flesh out of the old. Zol issued you to eat us. The new flesh will be testament. O Aya, decree the shape of this new thing. Judge its testament to the last truth. This new shape is Golgoroth. Crota rose to petition. Father, cut the shapes into a tablet. Give me the tablet, and I will bear it in battle, and tithe one side of my sword to you. Oryx cut the shapes into a tablet, but he guarded the shapes. He set the tablet in Golgoroth, where the new flesh grew as Aya decreed it. Like ice on stone he rebuked Crota. From the temples of his son, from the left side of his blade in battle, he demanded tithings of violence. To Oryx, the first navigator, who directed the movements of great masses. Reading into the poetic implications of the grimoire is often something that gets you nowhere because, well, it's all very deliberately vague. However, I feel as though if we're going to look towards some sentences of importance in this card, we should look near the beginning. In particular, I want to focus on the use of the word testament. I think it's important here because there are a few different definitions of testament that might apply. There's one with a lot more of a religious and spiritual connotation, which is to say that a testament is defined as a belief. There's also the definition of the word testament as is commonly used in the context of a will, as in the last will and testament, aka this is something referring to what's left behind for your descendants. I think both of these definitions are actually at play in this grimoire card here. The first paragraph contains the word twice, and I wonder if it's being used with its separate definitions in each instance. In the first instance, in the line where it reads, "The new flesh will be testament," I believe it's something that denotes that this flesh is something that will be passed down on to the descendants of the Hive, aka this new flesh, new implying that it's almost something of a descendant. It implies that the new flesh is therefore perhaps the future of what the Hive desire, maybe specifically something for the future of all ogres. Absol is not a known figure, but it could simply be a Hive way of saying from Xol or in relation to Sol. However, the bit later on where the line "judge its testament to the last truth" comes into play, I think the word testament is being used in the context of some kind of religious or spiritual belief. And I believe the context of the truth that the testament is being judged against is, in this instance, the sword logic. All of this seems to imply that this new flesh that was Golgoroth was something that came from both the Worm Gods and the Hive, but which is being seen as honoring the final shape. The idea of new flesh coming out of the old speaks almost to some kind of greater union and merging with the Worm Gods that was a more fitting vision of the universe that Oryx wished to fulfill. Something that is an interesting assumption based also on what we see in the Vow of the Disciple raid 7 or 8 years later, where a further version of the Scorn is being created by combining them with the worm parasites. Who knows how many decades, millennia, unthinkable amounts and measures of time the Hive have had to perfect their union with the Worm Gods. It's not impossible that further unions of such form, all of them made in exaltation of the sword logic, were the ultimate purpose of the experiments Rulk conducted on both the Hive and later, the Scorn. All of that is to say, however, that there is perhaps a further fusion between the worms and the Hive here in Golgoroth. If that is true, which is still a big if, that might go some way to explain its remarkable power and its penchant for destruction. The Tablet of Ruin at the center of the Golgoroth encounter was left there by Oryx as a rebuke against his son Crota, who asked that the tablet be given to him. However, the deep takes, and it does not give, and so the tablet was laid within Golgoroth. Both Golgoroth and the Tablet of Ruin in this sense are a rebuke of the son of the Taken King, as he was still asked to tithe the left side of his blade to Oryx, regardless of not being given the Tablet of Ruin. Golgoroth and the tablet are in this sense also a test for us. Whilst the War Priest before was a way of judging challengers of the Taken King as worthy or not, Golgoroth represents a more direct power that one must face. If the War Priest is the idea of the sword logic in practice, then Golgoroth is that idea made manifest. The writhing new flesh that truly tests one's understanding of existence by the right of violence. There is a little more that we can glean about the purpose of Golgoroth that hints to this idea, as well as the purpose of all the other denizens we find within the raid, thanks to the message smuggled to us by Toland referring to the court of Oryx and Oryx's closest guards. It reads as follows. Oryx ascends from the netherworld. The knights like hot stone, the beasts like scarred bone, walk at his side. Who walked in front of him? His daughters, with the truth between them. Who walked at his side? His priest of worms, whose tribute tasted like an egg. Who walked behind him? Golgoroth, who festered. Who walked within him? The satiated worm. It was hungry, but it was fed. They preceded him. These ones surrounded Oryx. They were beings who know no rest or doubt, who eat nor shed any flesh, who drink no clear poison, who take away the weakness from the weak, whose violence is tithed to Oryx so that he may devour without being devoured. It appears from this text that Golgoroth, much like the War Priest, was a key part of the core of Oryx's forces in the most high places in the Ascendant hierarchy, but also that there was a terrible purpose that Oryx would see Golgoroth fulfill. One could imagine that just as the War Priest did, Golgoroth could be unleashed upon a world, and that all of the destruction it accrued could be tithed back to the Taken King. The ravenous fury that both it and his court would bring to bear against Oryx's foes would not only crush those that dared to stand against the Taken King, but would also speed his ascension towards the realization of the final shape. But this is sadly all that we can glean about Golgoroth. To this day, we still don't know much more about this terrible combatant. And so, I need to leave this question with you. What do you believe that Golgoroth is? Do you think that Golgoroth is perhaps another vessel that Oryx used, much like the Unborn Ogres, to contact the deep? Is Golgoroth a sign of a growing covenant between the worms and the hive, one that, after so many years, we might have disrupted? Is Golgoroth a testament to the ends the hive will go to in order to claim victory through violence? Or is Golgoroth perhaps a worthy guardian of one of the Tablets of Ruin, Oryx's deepest secret, the secret of contacting the deep and moving worlds between dimensions? Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching the video though, and if you did enjoy it, go ahead and leave a like, and of course know that if you want more Destiny content like this, you can hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Por audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.